Hi there guys, it's Rick here and welcome to Rick's Guitar School. Today we have Scales and Arpeggios class. I'm going to focus our attention on major and minor triad arpeggios. I'm going to discuss the two main shapes that I tend to use, how I use them, and I'm going to talk about ways in which you can sort of spruce them up a little bit to make them sound a little bit more interesting than they normally would sound. But first I'd like to point you in the direction of my website, which is www.rick-graham.co.uk. There you can subscribe to my website and you'll get free access to HD video lesson content, which I'm putting together for you. Only subscribers can view that, so make sure you subscribe to my website. I'm working pretty hard on the material for that. I'm also working hard on the material for my YouTube channel too. And that section of my website, the Rick's Guitar School section, is constantly being updated. So being a subscriber will also keep you updated with all of that. So there we have it. Let's move on to the lesson. As I said before, I want to talk about major and minor triad arpeggios and how I use them. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the actual shapes themselves. I know some of you guys out there will be saying, well, there are three main shapes for major and minor arpeggios, but I'm just going to talk about two because I do use the third one, but it's the first two that I tend to use more often than not. So I'm just going to show you those. We're in the key of E, and it's this shape I'm talking about. This is the first one with a root on the sixth string. It's that particular shape. So I'll show you what that is if you don't know it. Fret 12 and 16 of the E, fret 14 of the A and D, 13 of the G, and 12 of the B and E. And of course 16 on the top. Okay, that's our first shape. The second, I'll do it in the key of E still. The second shape is this. Okay, that is fret 7 of the A, 6 of the D, 4 of the G, 5 of the B, and 4 and 7 of the top E. So those are the two main shapes that I tend to use. Like I say before, I do use the third one, but not as much as these particular two. For the minors, you just flatten the third degree. Same as this one here, just flatten that. For the third shape of the minor arpeggio, I use the second shape of the major arpeggio anyway and just add the additional note in. Because that would be the shape. This is an E major, the C sharp minor. So I tend to view those two shapes as very similar anyway. So moving on. I'm going to talk about ways in which I have incorporated them into my playing over the years. Back in the days when I used to shred all day long, don't really have the time to do it now, and also I concentrate on other things rather than just shredding. So, but I used to play the Pachelbel Canon progression, which has been used to death. I mean, that progression is great, it's a beautiful progression. But it was used to death 300 to 400 years ago, and even now it's still being used to death. But it's a great progression, really, really useful to use with those arpeggios. It's this kind of thing. Sure, you've heard that one. You can do a minor version as well. And so on. And I used to practice that quite a lot, and I really, really liked that particular approach where you had an ascending arpeggio for one and then you descend on a different arpeggio like I just did here. I thought that sounded really, really musical, so I used to practice that quite a lot, and that's kind of stayed in my playing now. Whoops. The other thing, let me just point one thing out as well. Sometimes I'll switch between doing this shape and placing this note on the A string. I find it's got a bit more of a roll to it, that particular shape. That's great, it's slightly different sound, so sometimes I'll switch between both. And yeah, the ascending and descending on a different arpeggio sounds great. For that one, I did the E arpeggio into a B. And I added 2 extra notes in there from the previous shape that I showed you. And that is 14 and 11 of the top E, 12 of the B, 11 of the G, 13 of the D, 14 of the A, down to 9 of the A, and 11 of the E. Okay? It's worth practicing that over and over because you can get it sounding really, really nice and fluid. Remember the key though here is, especially when you're sweeping it, it's clarity. Forget about speed, that's something that will happen. But the focus that you should have here when you're playing these by using sweep picking is clarity. That's what, you know, it's important to hear every single note nice and clearly. So that's one example. You could use E major to B major. Let's change the chords a little bit. You might want to use E minor to B minor. So this kind of sound. That sounds great. All you got to do is flatten the 3rd degree. Sounds really, really nice, that particular one. You can mix up chords as well. You don't have to do those. You can do various other things by mixing specific chords together. So experiment with different chord shapes. That's what I did. I did it for hours back when I was practicing 10 hours a day or whatever ridiculous length of time it was. Okay, let's move on to something that will hopefully give you a bit more, make them sound a little bit more interesting when you play them. And that is slides. I really like the use of slides with arpeggios. I think they can sound pretty cool. So let's take a look at the first example. What we're going to do is we're going to take 2 chords. Let's do E minor to D major. So we've got, as we've stated before, as we used before, position 1 with the root on the 6th string for E major, beg your pardon, E minor, and then D is our position 2. So we get this. And I'll show you, well, I'll show you the shapes. But what we're going to do is we're going to slide. So on the G string, we're going to get this for the E minor arpeggio. Okay? And all we're doing is sliding from the G to the B on the G string. We're also playing the 5th at the top instead of to the 3rd. So what we're going to do is slide down to the 5th of D. So, and then descend as normal. Oops, that sounds really cool. Make sure you get that part of the arpeggio correct, not like I've just done it. That sounds really nice. Sounds a little bit more interesting than just a regular ascending and descending shape. So that's really useful. You might want to sort of mix up the chords as well. You might want to do E minor to C, for instance. We'll keep it sliding still. That sounds really cool. Obviously work on these and make sure you get them nice and accurate. I haven't practiced these for a while, so you can continue. You might want to go to B. Very cool sounding. If you're into sort of slightly more outside sounding stuff, you might want to do something like, I don't know, let's try D flat. So that sounds pretty cool. There's loads of other choices that you can use. And you might want to try the Pachelbel thing with the slides as well. That sounds pretty cool. That might be worth investigating. So we've come to the end of the lesson. I hope you've enjoyed it. Try and mix up some of these ideas into your own playing. Try and experiment as much as possible with the shapes and with the slides, and see if you can get as creative as you possibly can. Don't forget to subscribe to my website, www.rick-graham.co.uk. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you guys very, very soon. Take it easy.